Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. I am Brenda Sanchez, and I am a retired Air Force major. I retired in 2015, and now I am the best-selling author and co-founder of Life's Real Currency with my husband, Michael Sanchez. And I bring you these Military Mondays every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. So I would love to have you join us every single Monday at 8 a.m. I get to interview most of the time, not all of the time. Sometimes you get just me. But most of the time I'm interviewing veterans or children of veterans or spouses of veterans so that you can learn a little bit about military life and so that I can support veteran owned or veteran type businesses. And today I have the honor of my very, did I say very enough? My very dear friend, TerZa, TerZa, with the TerZa Factor. She is an amazing artist. I am wearing one of her clothes, her creations, which is amazing. We've known each other, well, at least 4 or 5 years, I think. No, longer than that. 7, at least 7 years. We met back in a former company we were in. We met in training. So, and we made a connection real quick and became friends very quickly because once you get to know this lady, you'll know why. She's amazing. But TerZa has quite a unique story. She's not a veteran herself, but her dad served and her son served, both in the Navy. And so it's different perspective today to get to hear from the child of a veteran and the mom. I mean, I want to hear what it's like. I mean, I've served, so it's a little different. My children haven't served. My son-in-law has, but it's different when a child comes to you and says, I want to go join the military. Yeah. So with that, thanks for joining today, TerZa. She, like I said, is the owner of the TerZa Factor and is a great artist. You see her art behind you too. That's pretty cool. And her top. So tell us a little bit about growing up as a child in the military with your dad serving and moving all around.
We certainly did get to move a lot. I lived several places across the US because of that. And been able to go to Japan and the Philippines, although it was around the age of 3 or 4. So, but I still remember those. Those were significant trips. And so, looking at life adventurously and getting to travel a lot, that's how I grew up. I always thought moving around to a new place was an adventure. It was a thrill. It was like, oh, we get to go to a new place and meet new people and do new things. So for me, it was always exciting. I don't think we ever stayed on a military base. So we were always in off-base housing. So. Okay. Yes, and as a matter of fact, I don't remember why it happened this way, but I actually wasn't born in a Navy hospital, even though we were in San Diego. I was born off base. That's all I can tell you. It just happened to work out that way.
That's interesting because especially back then, most births were on base. I mean, nowadays there's a lot of off-base care that happens because they've downsized, but that's right. Interesting. And then talk about, you and I talked before we started the show today. You talked about some of the things your mom talked about being the spouse, in the service, and you have some pretty distinct memories or conversations.
Yes, it was really interesting. I had no idea that so much was expected of an officer's wife. So believe it or not, there are definite protocols that an officer's wife must follow. So there are certain, I don't know, ceremony is not the right word, but expected processes for how you greet the military spouse greets the commanding officer and the commanding officer's spouse, right? And then you're expected to host a certain number of functions in a certain way. And if your husband is supposed to show up in an event, guess what? You are too, no matter what. So that was always interesting. She also said it was interesting when all the husbands, went on their tours. The wives always banded together to take care of each other and help each other with their families. It was just, there was no written rule or something. It was just, you just did it. You just did it. You just helped each other out. It was, and when the husbands came back, maybe it was somewhat less so, right? Some of that community kind of dissipated, but as soon as they went out again, the wives were back together again, helping each other. So, and I don't remember so much that is in terms of other kids or other anything, but I know that my mom felt supported by her community, and she was looked on as a community support.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the military does, for those who have not served or have not been a part of a family who has served in and been a part of that community, even today, they bond together and they come together when people are deployed or TDY, temporary duty assignment, for those that are watching that don't know what that means. But when they're TDY or they're gone for a period of time, they, for the most part, they do band together. Remember in DC, they did that some, but it was harder because of the big metropolitan area and hard to get to people. But those that live close by the base definitely banded together and were there to support. And I hear it all the time, especially down at Fort Carson and that with the Army folks that are deployed all the time. I hear about the wives clubs and the family support. I was never on that side. That's why I like to interview people like yourself who were on the other side. I was the spouse for this long. I mean, when I got out and my ex stayed in, it was only 6 months or so before I was back in the service. So never really got to truly experience that. So your son then came to you at some point and said he wanted to join the Navy.
Yeah, so my son graduated. He graduated early from high school, so he spent the summer trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And I'm not sure why he chose the service. It was interesting. So he went and interviewed all the services. I guess you go to the recruiting offices to do that. And for some reason, he really, really liked the idea of the Navy. I think he wanted to serve on a submarine. He scored extremely well on the ASVAB. And so they sent him off to nuclear school in South Carolina. And even though he had the aptitude for it, the math and science and that kind of thing, he eventually decided that really wasn't for him. So they sent him to the foreign language school in Monterey because he was already fluent in Russian. However, it was family Russian, right? So they needed to teach him current Russian, maybe is a better way to put that. Yeah. So, and then Serbian and Croatian. And so his naval career was very different from my father's. My son really loved the Navy too, but he only got to, as a Navy sailor, he only got to be on an aircraft carrier once. He did more time on an aircraft carrier after leaving the Navy as part of the reserves than being in the Navy itself. So he actually spent his Navy career on an Air Force base in Texas.
Oh, wow. Interesting. It's sort of like people, I was just talking to somebody, Kara, I think it was, Christensen, and she said her dad served in the Navy in Kansas, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Kansas? And she said, it's weird to have a Navy base, in the middle, in a landlocked state, So interesting. So how was it being the mom, when he was headed off? What was that like?
Well, that was really scary. He left. They they give you a date and then it changes like on a dime, right? So
Yep.
it was like a couple of months out, and then all of a sudden it was next week. So it was it was like, wow.
This is
And
really
then
happening.
yes, it was, so that was really scary. But then he invited me and my dad to his boot camp graduation. I didn't know they had such things. So, but it was really special. I was so proud of him. He was more in. I feel like he came into his own. He was very much in command of himself. He was proud of himself, um, and he had buddies. I mean, they all went through this together, and they, as you said, they were bonded, and it was amazing. It really was amazing. So, and he was so proud to have my dad there.
Oh, I bet to have grandpa there,
Yes,
at his ceremony, I'm sure was pretty special. So,
yes.
so what are you up to today? Other than we can see your art in the back, but what are you up to today?
Actually, I'm been spending a little bit of time in my studio making new art, and uh, at the behest of my business coaches and my husband, I'm actually getting pieces framed and hung up. So they're not sitting on the floor anymore.
Good.
So,
And how did you get into art and what you're doing today? Like how, because I know your background and I know
mhm.
you come from an IT background. You were
Yeah.
I think MCI or HP something.
No, actually, I work for Digital Equipment Corporation here in Colorado Springs. And then, of course, they were bought by Compaq Computer, and then they were bought by HP. So I got to work for all three. So, and I loved working in computers at the time. It was a really fun time in the industry, and it was awesome. But as it was drawing to a close and things were shifting, I was kind of looking for my next adventure, and I wasn't sure what it would be. So I tried several different things, of course, after being laid off. And then a friend of mine introduced me to creating art rather than just looking at it. So my first father-in-law was an artist for his whole life. My son has great um, artistic abilities. Actually, he's really wonderful at drawing, although he certainly didn't take it up professionally. But even as a kid, he would just model these comic book characters, and I was like, wow, how did you do that? But anyway, I never saw myself ever creating art. I just admired it. And then once I once I started creating in it and discovered that there were no rules, you could just create whatever you wanted, I was hooked.
Going from coming from the cyber IT field with all the rules to
Yes.
no rules.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Freedom.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Exactly.
so you make clothing, and obviously we see some of your art on the wall.
Mhm.
But tell us a little bit so that the viewers know how do they get connected with Tirza, and how can you help them in their business? Maybe they're a veteran and they're finally retiring and getting out of the service, and they don't have to wear that uniform every day, and they can
Right.
wear bright, exciting colors, and they want to be different, stand out.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how you create the art and how it turns into, clothes and bags and throw pillows and
Well, I like to create art that flows. So this, I don't know if you can see if I'm pointing correctly, but behind me, all three of them are mine, but this one on the far left with the kind of
yep,
swirly colors,
purpley.
purpley colors, that one is in acrylic. It was my attempt at doing a paint pour. But what I normally do are ceramic tiles with alcohol inks, because again, it just flows. The piece that you're wearing is alcohol inks on a tile. You can't control what it does. You can learn to a certain degree to manipulate it, and there's some things you can do, but really, it kind of does what it wants. And you just have to learn how to mix the colors in an appealing way, right? And then you can learn to create designs. But then what happens is I take pictures of them, and I upload those pictures to manufacturers in the specific design patterns. And so then my customers can choose the design, they choose their size, what kind of clothing they want. And then it gets made for them, but not by me.
But that's where the IT comes in, because you're real good with IT. So doing that, using the computer to create after you've created on tile, then to make a creation on the computer that turns into clothing or shoes. So
Yeah.
Mike has a pair of shoes that is created. I should have had them so I could show. But you do unique too, right? Somebody can commission you to do something completely unique to them, and it'll be a one-off. Nobody else will ever have it. So
Yes.
if they want that, they could have that, right?
Yes, exactly right.
Awesome.
Exactly right. And that's so I've taught engineers a little bit about being creative. Not that they're already creative, but they're not necessarily used to breaking outside the rules. And the fun thing about that, I know for some people that's really uncomfortable, and that's okay. But what it does is it also allows you to free your mind a little bit, so that when you go back to the more structured things, you look at it from a different perspective, right? Now your mind is more open to other possibilities. And that's what I like to share with engineers or retired military or creatives alike, so.
Awesome. And you'll drop below in the comments how they can reach you. And
Yes.
I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about this ahead of time. But I happen to know that I have a discount code for TerZa. So is it okay if I put that below and they all can get the 10% off? Would that work?
Absolutely. That would be fun. Yes.
So
yes.
I'll put a link below so that everybody can get 10% off TerZa's art. And like I said, she does journals and throw pillows, and you'll have to go check out the site because it's pretty cool. She must
Phone
be.
cases.
Oh yeah, phone cases. I don't have mine on because I had to get a new phone. So I was gonna say, yeah, phone. No, don't have that one because my phone broke, and so I'll have to get a new one made by TerZa because she did our branding colors. So if you're in business and you want your specific colors for your brand, she can build you something unique for your brand too. So I'm super honored to have you on today. Super honored to have you in my life. You add so much to Mike's in my life, and we really appreciate it. And obviously, that we wish you the best in everything you do, and so excited that you live in the same town we do so that we can. And I can't wait to take a class. I won a class and we haven't been able to do it. And with social distancing, it might be a while. Unless it can do it over Zoom.
I'll have to work on that. I bet I can, actually.
You'll have to give us all the stuff, put it in a box, or like Chris Dyer does, and drop it on the porch, and then we can all do it on Zoom together, maybe.
That's a great idea. I should really set that up. I'd love to do that. It would be my pleasure.
That would be fun. So especially for those of us that are stuck. Well, everybody's stuck inside.
Stuck at home.
And it'd be a way to have some creative fun.
Yes, it would.
So
yes. Yeah.
Thanks again. I appreciate
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
For everybody watching, again, I'm Brenda Sanchez, and I bring you these Military Mondays every single Monday morning at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. And if you are a veteran, or you are the spouse of a veteran, or the child of a veteran, I would love to interview you, especially if you have a business, so that I can get the word out about your business, because I love promoting veteran-owned businesses. So with that, and if you are a nonprofit that supports veterans, I would love to have a conversation with you and maybe interview you on my Military Mondays. So with that, everyone, I will see you next Monday on Military Mondays. Bye, everyone.